COVID has definitely propositioned a lot of movements and social issues, whether it's issues with politicians, with racial issues in America. It's kind of sad that like a pandemic had to be the thing that made people start caring about these issues.
Greetings all and welcome to Cochise Convos, a podcast dedicated to sharing your stories and information about Cochise College. This is episode 6 of Cochise Convos Quarantine Edition, where we will be listening to your stories as students and alumni and how you've managed to adjust during the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, my guest is Camelia Herrera, who is a transfer student from Cochise College and is majoring in digital audiences at Arizona State University. Today, she's going to be sharing her insight within managing her studies in marketing and public relations and their impact during COVID-19. Camelia, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here right now.
We are so happy to have you. So in general, how has quarantine been for you? Are you quarantined by yourself or were you with anyone else?
Currently I'm staying with my family, so it's been interesting, to say the least. I'm a bit of an ambivert, so I'm extroverted and introverted. I've had a lot of highs and lows in my mood. So, some days I'll be like, yeah, let's go. I'm ready to be outside, like in my backyard, social distancing. But like, and then other days I'm like, I don't even want to get out of bed. I'm just going to binge watch like whatever is on Netflix for like the next 10 hours.
Looking at your life as a whole, and this could be academically or professionally or personally, what has been the main challenge for you during quarantine?
I would say it's like more in my personal life because I guess I'm lucky to have things to do. But like because I'm full-time student like all the time, so I always have something to do. I'm just trying to find that balance between social interaction and being alone.
So how was managing your studies during the quarantine, and was there anything you changed about your workspace to help get your mind set, okay, I'm doing school now or I'm doing work?
Well, I've been a bit lucky because I started ASU Online in fall of 2019. So I've already been used to the online environment. I decided to do half and half. Like I would do a couple classes at Cochise and then I do like my online courses like full time. In the beginning, it was really, really tough for me to find like the motivation to do things because when you're not going to a class, it's very easy to like get kind of jumbled up with your due dates and like forget about certain things or like remember when to read or to do something or watch this or whatever. It's very much time management. My desk is kind of a mess. I just have a stack of books over here. I'm still organizing it, but what I've been using is my planner pretty much. It's not right here right now, but like I have a planner and I would plan my week, like the week I have currently and the week ahead, and I just continue to do that so that I kind of like remind myself. I'd also set like reminders on my phone. It took a while for me to get the motivation to even like do my homework. That sounds so bad, but really when you're in online classes, it's just like you're not seeing the results, you're not in class, you're not engaging with people, so it's kind of hard, I guess.
So you would recommend having multiple avenues to help plan your schedule, so having something like you mentioned, your phone, setting reminders on your phone and your planner, so having multiple systems for organizing, you definitely would think that'd be the best route to take?
I would add like a couple other things to that as well. I would like to say everybody has like a specific work time where your brain is most active or like you're most willing to do work. For some people it's the morning, for some people they're like more night owls and they'll do their work at night. For me, I have like a sweet spot between 4 and 6 p.m. So that's when I try to start my homework, and that usually gives me like enough time to finish it, go over it, do whatever I need to do, and then it's pretty much like that's the amount of time, that's the time I work from every day. So setting up a schedule for yourself like that, like associating like 4 to 6 p.m. for example, like with now is time to work, like now I got to do this. Another thing that I would highly recommend is knowing your best learning method. Like we've all heard about auditory learners, kinesthetic learners, visual learners. I'm a visual learner, so all my notes are in a lot of colorful pens and a lot of highlighter, and that's how I best retain information. So knowing how you learn is also really, really, really important to kind of maintaining that drive to study, especially online, because a lot of online is like you're the one driving yourself to do your work. You're the one driving yourself to take the extra time, enough time to study and learn something before the test, the exam, the assignment, whatever it is. So knowing yourself, how you study, is the best way, in my opinion, to move through that. Allocate some time for free time. You cannot always be studying because that will make your brain explode. So free time is very important. Taking a break is very, very important. So don't feel like guilty about like, I did like 2 minutes of work. I can take an hour break. Like
Yes, girl, preach it.
I would take that hour break. Where's the homework gonna go? Nowhere. So
that's great. So Camelia, you are our first digital audiences and marketing major we have on the show.
Yes.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. So we definitely wanted to ask you some questions that are related to your major and your degree program. And the first one I have for you is basically what made you choose to go into marketing and what initially drew you to the field of PR and social media?
That's a really interesting question because nowhere in my life, like middle school, elementary school, high school, did I ever think I was going to go into anything related to marketing. I was one of those students that thought I had it all figured out. I was like, I'm not like other students in this high school. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm doing. I thought I wanted to be a doctor, a pre-med student, but then, I took some classes and I realized like, I really don't want to do this for the rest of my life. It was always the plan for me to do 2 years of Cochise and like move on to ASU. I went through this phase, like my sophomore year of college, I guess, at Cochise, and I was like, what the hell am I going to do? Because I had like an identity crisis. I was so sure that I wanted to be a doctor that like when I realized like, oh, I actually hate this. So I went through like different degrees, like, well, what to be interested in. I try to stick to something in the STEM field, chemistry, but then, I want to live a long life, so that wasn't an option. Then I was like, I need to break down what my issues are. Like, what do I want to do with my life? Not just professionally, just like in life, what would make me happy? I thought to myself, like, I want a job that would allow me to live anywhere I choose. That was, when I broke it down to that aspect, it kind of became a little bit more clear what I wanted to do. I've always been on social media. I've always like been passionate about YouTube, Twitter, all these things like that. I became a digital audiences major basically because my advisor told me it was a good idea, and it was like a brand new degree. It's only been around for like maybe 2 or 3 years. There's not that many people in my program, but I'm really happy with it. It was like kind of like a realization washes over you of like, wow, I actually really enjoy doing this. To be in this major, you have to be a logical thinker. So there's a lot of like, logistics that go into it, but you also have to be very creative because you need to come up with different ways to engage people based on the information that you're studying. So
how do you think communication could be improved? And anywhere from our local businesses to our government officials, how could they implement various communication channels like social media and help better connect with the general public?
Yeah, I guess like the best way is literally through social media. Being able to navigate that would be really great because most information that's getting passed right now is through online mediums. Having a politician or a business owner being well versed in that is very beneficial to their business because you're being transparent with people consistently. This is like a consistency thing. Like, you can't just be like, oh, one and done. And it's all about like engagement too. You need to be engaging with your users as well, like especially if they have questions about like, how is this gonna work? Can I still come to your business if this happens? Being there and communicating with people, even if it's in an online medium, is the future. And some people want to deny it, but it's here, and she's not leaving anytime soon. So
Camelia, as a history enthusiast, do you see any relation to what's transpiring currently with COVID-19 to any other periods in history? And do you see any indicating patterns?
Well, as you know, I'm a history minor, so it's like right up my alley. But yeah, I think that the current situation as it is definitely unprecedented. Like, I can't really think of too many indications in history that are very similar to our own. A lot of people like to point to the Spanish flu of like 1918, but I don't necessarily think it's really applicable to this situation. I mean, it was like 100 years ago. And obviously we live in such a different time than then. It's like different politics, different things like that. We're more open world. Yeah, I think COVID-19 has definitely propositioned a lot of movements and social issues that have, I would say, kind of not been in the mainstream before this. And I guess I'm kind of happy to see it, because a lot of what's going on right now, there have been issues for a long time, whether it's issues with politicians, with racial issues in America, with, like the statues of slave owners in the South being torn down. These are issues that have existed. It just hasn't been, I guess, acknowledged as much. And that's kind of sad that like a pandemic had to be the thing that made people start caring about these issues. But, we're here now. So, we got to take what we can get. So, yeah, I think this is a really interesting time. We're living history right now. It's exciting and terrifying, because when I read or watch history, I like to think about the point of view of the people back then. I like try to put myself in that mindset. And that's like, I guess, living history. That's exactly what that terminology means. Like, you're living through it. But yeah, it's a scary time. I hope things will get better in the future. I mean, that's history repeats itself, right? Something bad happens and it gets better after. In the modern world, I really don't think that this situation as it currently stands can be too much related to the past, because it's so vastly different. I mean, we're living in an age that's kind of unprecedented. The world is more globally connected. People no longer have so much of a local identity connected to their countries or their communities. Our generation has more of a global identity. It's not just, oh, I'm an American. It's kind of like, you have friends from all over and you feel more connected to people from everywhere.
That's great. Drops mic, man.
Drops mic.
That's great. So definitely, before we wrap up, I just have a few more questions. Knowing that this is the time of year where many academic institutions are making decisions about whether to open their campuses up for in-person classes or whether they're going to continue on in an online format. Knowing this and keeping this in mind, do you have any suggestions to how we should proceed with education post-quarantine?
Well, seeing with the recent information of cases in a lot of states, including Arizona, of cases basically spiking up because of the lack of, I would say, care a lot of people seem to have about what's going on. Like, the pandemic is still going on. Wearing your mask and being careful and washing your hands are still very important things. But, I noticed a lot of people, I guess, once the quarantine was up, they're like, oh, everything's fine now. It's not. I would say the college operating through Zoom would probably be the best option for safety, at least until the numbers go down, or maybe there's like more precautions taken, or maybe if a vaccine comes out, which is unlikely. But I genuinely think what Cochise College is doing now with moving to just Zoom classes, I mean, they are capable of doing that, and I think that's a good decision on their part to make. So I'm approving of what's going on now. And I think they're following the lead of like major universities as well too, because I know ASU, they've suspended all in-person classes for the rest of the year and possibly even next year. But they're still waiting on, I guess, how the situation develops to decide anything about spring or things like that. Either way, it doesn't really affect me, but even though it's a bit harder, I know people who are in a bit more difficult classes, like whether it's engineering or a heavy math or heavy science, it might be a little tough for them. And I really do feel for them, but like, it's not my life. So that's your problem. That's your problem, not mine. I'm sorry.
That's a good point to make, though, because with Zoom, it's a nice hybrid balance of being able to still complete your coursework, still get that social interaction like you would from a face-to-face class, but still keeping that social distance and making sure that you're able to maintain that and stay safe while you're completing your studies. So thank you for sharing that insight, because that is important that we hear from multiple people's perspectives, hey, what would you like to see? So thank you for sharing that. And Cornelia, it has been wonderful talking to you. I have one more final question before we wrap up today's episode. Do you have any advice for someone who is struggling with social distancing in their academics?
I guess it kind of rounds back to what I was saying earlier. Knowing yourself and setting a schedule for yourself is one of the best things you can do. there's not a specific formula you can follow because everybody's different. They learn different, they operate different. Some people are a bit more awake in the morning, some are a bit more awake at night. It's really kind of formulating your schedule to fit you, and it's going to take a while to get into the groove of that. Like it takes like maybe a couple weeks to do that. I didn't really feel too much into my schedule until like maybe a month in, and that was just me. That just might be me, but yeah, I think it's just being proactive and setting a plan for yourself, whatever that may be, is one of the best things you could do for yourself. Also, make sure to take breaks, drink a lot of water, get 8 hours of sleep, get some fresh air once in a while, go out to your backyard, take care of yourself so that you can take care of your academics.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Self-care, baby.
Self-care, 2020, your self-care in quarantine.
Trademark.
Yes, trademark, and nobody can take that now.
That's wonderful. Camelia, it has been a joy and a pleasure to talk to you as always. So thank you so much for coming on to the show. And thank you everyone, if you've been tuning in and listening and watching along, thank you so much for watching. If you like what you hear, please be sure to hit the little thumbs up button and make sure you subscribe to Cochise College's YouTube channel. And if you want to, please click the bell icon below for post notifications so you get a notification every time that we post. New episodes will be released every Wednesday, so please stay tuned for the next one. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your afternoon.